We're all in recovery from something. Dennis Prager said to his mom, "Do you know anybody without any problems?" And she said, "Nobody that I know well." I thought, isn't that life? We're always dealing with some issue. Now, it could be a disease, it could be an accident, it could be some challenging issue, but what separates people is this big or small, whether it's easy or difficult, we're all in recovery from something. Now, I've been recovering from a chronic illness for my whole adult life. And the process that I used to keep my disease in remission is actually kind of universal. And I think that while my challenge may not be the same as yours, if you just change yours for mine, as I share some lessons learned, hopefully there's something that you can benefit from. I heard a story once that kind of put it together for me, and it's about this guy. He's stuck in a hole and he starts yelling for help. So a rich man comes by and says, "What's the problem?" Guy says, "I'm stuck in this hole and I can't get out. Can you help?" Rich man writes him a check, drops it in the hole, and walks on. So a doctor comes by, says, "What's the problem?" He says, "I'm stuck in this hole and I can't get out. Can you help?" Doctor writes him a prescription, drops it in the hole, and walks on. Third man comes up, says, "What's the problem?" He says, "I'm stuck in this hole and I can't get out. Can you help me?" He says, "Yes, I can." He says, "Move to the back of the hole." And as soon as he does, third man jumps in. The guy says, "What'd you do that for?" Now we're both stuck in the hole. Third man said, "Don't worry. I've been here before. I know the way out." For me, that's the story of AA. I was a guy in the hole. That third guy, he was my first sponsor, Tom. And he not only walked me out of that hole, he walked alongside of me for the rest of his life. Because you see, my name's Mike, and I'm an alcoholic. By the grace of God and the help of a lot of people in that 12-step program, I've been continuously sober since October 19th, 1981. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. Now, in 1981, I knew I had a problem with drinking, but I hadn't had any of the major consequences yet. I didn't have any trouble with the law, no physical issues, work was going well, but I had motivation. And my biggest motivation was that I was going to kill somebody drinking and driving. And I would pray, "God, if somebody has to die tonight, let it be me. But if you could just get me home safe, I'll never let it happen again." My disease is so cunning, baffling, and powerful that I kept drinking and driving again and again, even though I had the best intentions never to repeat it. And I was sitting in treatment and I realized, God had come through every single time. And now, if I just stopped drinking, I could hold up my end of the bargain. I was ready to start on this path toward recovery, and I was totally concerned about what my next step was. And I didn't know whether it would be easy or difficult, but I knew I had to do something because I had this motivation, and we all know that motivation isn't just one thing. I mean, unless you get hit by a bus. It's usually multiple things, and I was also a blackout drinker. And it was terrifying to wake up in the morning and not know how I got there or what had happened from the time that I passed out or went blacked out until I woke up. And so I had plenty of motivation, but people say, motivation doesn't last. Well, neither does bathing. That's why they suggest you do it every day. Motivation gets us started, but it's habit to keep us going. And so I started the habit of working this program one day at a time. And what I found out was it's simple, but it's not easy. One of the difficulties comes because we get overconfident. We're 6 months or a year sober and we think, I could probably control it. It probably wasn't that big a deal. And they stress right from the beginning, no, you need to understand that there is no finish line in recovery. You need to keep doing the things that are making this alive and living in your life. I was just kind of hoping there was an elevator to the top, but they said, no, you have to take the stairs, one step at a time. And so I did that, and I found out too that, a lot of people would ask me, do you think I have a problem with alcohol? And I would say, I got a simple answer. What causes problems is one. Now, it may be a problem, or it could be an addiction. And the way I define addiction is that you want more and more of something that's destroying your life. You're in this death spiral, there's no way out, but there is help with these 12 steps. And the recovery formula is pretty simple. You admit that there's a problem, you accept that there's help, and then you take action to start moving forward. Now, the first step in AA is we admitted we are powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. Admitting I was powerless was easy because my drinking was out of control. In fact, when I tried to control it, I couldn't enjoy it. But when I tried to enjoy it, I never controlled it. I knew something really bad was going to happen, even though none of those major consequences had happened yet. And so I got into this program, and I found out it's a program built on honesty, because we're only as sick as our deepest secret. Now, if I'm totally honest with you, I got to AA because of illness and fatigue. People were just sick and tired of me. I knew it'd take you a while, yeah. But I didn't understand why at the time. I realized after a while that it was because I was measuring myself by my intentions, and they were measuring me by my actions. I realize now that alcohol wasn't the answer, but it was always my first guess. And so I was out of control, and all I could do was surrender. And AA is the only place where I know that you surrender to win. So you admit that there's a problem, and once you've done that, now you need to accept help. And the challenge is, see, addiction is a disease of isolation. And AA is a program of we. Nobody ever got sober alone, and nobody ever stayed sober alone. The people who've been the most successful in AA are the people who see this as a gift and not a curse. They see it as a blessing, not something that was taken away from them. And so what happens is you start working this program, and you're moving forward through all of the things, because I had to accept that there were people out there who'd been there and done that could help me, and I had to accept that there was this program that they were working that could work in my life. And so I found that the people that were working the program the best were people that had made the changes in their life, and it was improving for them. So once I've admitted I've got a problem, once I've accepted the help, now it's the final step. I have to take the action required to do something about it. And for me, the action to move forward was getting myself in a position where I was going to do something about it, because we know if nothing changes, nothing changes. And change is that inevitable part. Because the people who make these changes and start moving forward in their lives, they find out that the best thing is that it was something that they see that it was something that was given to them, not something that was taken away. They see this as a blessing, not a curse. And so as they do that, I always got to remember that my mind has to be like a parachute. It only works when it's open. So I'm open to those ideas. And as we change, things start changing, and things are changing for the positive, and people are noticing that. Actually, I got one of those great experiences at a kindergarten parent-teacher conference. We walked in there, and Mrs. Bush said, says, I've been doing this for so long, I always say, there's nothing these kids can do that it's going to surprise me. I said, but your Alex did. Said, we asked the class, what do you want to be when you grow up? She said, Alex stood right up at his desk, and he said, I want to be an alcoholic just like my dad. And then she goes, but it sounded really positive. When that happened, I was 15 years sober when that 6-year-old said that. And what it told me was he saw that recovery was a great way of life, and it is. And so now you have the opportunity to go forth and do something that I would say today, if you went and you admitted to somebody, I've got a problem, and that I'm willing to accept help from either you or from somebody else, and that I want to start taking the actions to move forward, I hope you do that, and I hope you'll measure yourself by your actions and not your intentions. Because the better you are, the more useful you can be to yourself, to your loved ones, and to everybody else you come in contact with. I love what Mother Teresa said. She said, I want to be a small pencil in the hand of God, writing a love letter to the world. We can all do that if we just start heading for those stairs and stepping out of that hole that we dug, because we're all in recovery from something. Thank you.